What's going on, addicts? Today, I get to talk about one of my favorite players this year, JuJu Smith-Schuster, wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So looking last year, JuJu Smith-Schuster came into the season, no one was really expecting much from him. You had Antonio Brown, you had Martavis Bryant, you had Le'Veon Bell. Those are really the three target hogs in the offense. So JuJu Smith-Schuster basically went under the radar, and he didn't even start the first couple games of the season. But where he finished at the end of the year, you would have never expected the amount of games that he actually played as the starter. So he finished the year with 58 receptions, coming from 79 targets, 917 yards, and 7 touchdowns, and with a long of 97 yards against the Lions, which that was one of the funniest plays of the game. When you looked at the play, he continued looking back at the defender behind him, and they asked him after the game why he did that, and he made a remark stating that his Madden speed rating was in the 70s, so he was not sure why the defender wasn't catching up with him. So from a personality standpoint, I think JuJu Smith-Schuster is a hilarious guy, and I think he has a really good heart, but that doesn't really matter for fantasy, right? What matters for fantasy is how he absolutely dominated once he actually started getting consistent targets. So again, when you look at the stats last year, you kind of have to break the season up into two parts, because at the beginning of the year, Martavis Bryant was the wide receiver 2 opposite Antonio Brown, and JuJu really didn't get much work. He did play, ever since the second week. He didn't play at all against Cleveland, but second week he got a few targets, but it really didn't pick up until Martavis Bryant got hurt and missed the game against the Lions that JuJu came out with that 7 reception, 193-yard game, which even if you take away that 97-yard game, that was still a pretty good fantasy game. And he continued to have pretty consistent fantasy scoring. He did miss 2 games because of an injury. So if you really want to give any throw any shade towards JuJu's way, I get that you can say that maybe he's injury prone. He is kind of dealing with something in training camp right now. So I would say if you're talking any risk with JuJu, it would definitely be related to his injury history. But as of this point right now, he's not going too high for me to really feel that injury history is warranted to downgrade him in my rankings. So do I project him to have as many big games as he did last year? I'm not really sure. Obviously, whenever you have a rookie that comes onto the scene, there's typically a lot to do with the fact that opposing defenses didn't have the appropriate game film to prepare for this, and they kind of catch you off guard. But Obviously, they won't have that problem this year, so I would expect defenders to respect JuJu a little bit more, opposing defenses especially. So he'll definitely get a little bit more competition. However, starting the year as the wide receiver 2 opposite Antonio Brown, there's only so much you can do to stop both of those guys on the field. And as long as Le'Veon Bell comes back from training camp, missing training camp, and actually starts the year strong, I would not want to be a defensive coordinator that has to play against the Steelers this year. I think JuJu Smith-Schuster is an absolute bargain, and I could totally foresee him finishing in the top 12 amongst all receivers in PPR scoring. So that should pretty much tell you how I feel about him. But if you're really curious how I feel about him in regards to other players, feel free to click the link in the description box below. You can download all my PPR rankings for everyone that's worth drafting. I'll be sending you guys updates to that list throughout August and into September, making sure that you guys are fully prepared for your drafts. Anyway, hopefully you guys found this video helpful, and give JuJu some love. I will be more than happy to take him in as many teams as I can. Anyway, hope you guys have a great day. Peace.